China's ambassador says Beijing is offering to form a partnership with Canada to push back against American bullying, suggesting the two countries could rally other nations to stop Washington from undermining global rules. "We want to avoid the situation where humanity is brought back to a world of the law of the jungle again," Chinese Ambassador Wang Di told the Canadian press in a wide-ranging interview. "China is Canada's opportunity, not Canada's threat," he said through the embassy's interpreter. Wang, whose office requested the interview with the Canadian press, said that China and Canada appear to be the only countries taking concrete and real countermeasures against the unjustified U.S. tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. "We have taken notice that, faced with the U.S.'s unilateral bullying, Canada has not backed down," he said. "Instead, Canada is standing on the right side of the history, on the right side of international fairness and justice." He said Beijing and Ottawa should work together to convince other countries not to placate the Trump administration and to make Washington pay a price for breaking global trade rules. As the rivalry between the U.S. and China has intensified, Canada has generally followed Washington's lead on restricting certain types of commerce with China. Last fall, in an effort to protect Canadian auto sector jobs and allay American concerns about threats to supply chains, the federal government imposed 100% tariffs on imports of Chinese-made electric vehicles at all but banned Chinese EVs from the Canadian market. Canada alleged unfair trade practices, including a state-directed policy of overcapacity and oversupply, and lack of rigorous labor and environmental standards. Beijing retaliated by imposing large tariffs on Canadian canola and pork duties. Wang said Beijing is happy to drop if Ottawa drops its own tariffs. "The causes of Chinese tariffs are very clear, and the merits of this case are also very clear," he said. "We should give the driver's seat to market principles and rules in China-Canada bilateral trade, instead of allowing our practical cooperation to be hijacked by any ideological biases." China's ambassador to Canada, Con Peiwu, acknowledged that tariffs have hit Western Canada harder, but said it wasn't intentional. He sees strong opportunities for cooperation with provinces like Saskatchewan, citing recent talks with Premier Scott Moe. China recently set a record for Canadian crude oil imports, aided by the Trans Mountain Pipeline and declining U.S. oil imports. Wang emphasized China's interest in sharing the benefits of its economic growth and said he's been in discussions with Canadian officials about building partnerships. He warned that both countries could suffer economically if global institutions like the UN and WTO weaken, and criticized U.S. trade pressure, calling it hegemonic and bullying. President Xi echoed similar concerns in Southeast Asia. China has responded to U.S. trade moves by threatening countermeasures and calling for support at the UN Security Council. Some experts view China's outreach as an attempt to align with countries distancing themselves from the U.S., though it's unclear how Canada will respond. Political leaders remain skeptical. Mark Carney called China a major security threat, while Pierre Poilievre has pledged to maintain tariffs and protect Canadian sovereignty. Despite ongoing tensions and allegations of Chinese interference, Wang says he's seen growing Canadian interest in stronger ties, pointing to an increase in visa applications to China. He said Ottawa should earnestly reflect upon the policy it has taken toward China in the past few years. In June 2024, Abacus data asked Canadians to rank countries on a scale of 1 to 10, and China ranked relatively low to 3.1 on average, closer to 4 among adults under 30. The poll was conducted for the University of Toronto's Monk School. "China has always regarded Canada as our friend and partner," Wang said. "For the bilateral relationship to go well, it takes two to tango."